Okay, so I think it's about that time. I'm going to turn it over to Brian K. Mahoney, our editorial director, who is going to run the show. Brian.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Hi, everybody. I'm Brian. I'm the editor. Let me get back to a view that I can see people with. Okay. Oh, that's better. It's like a wonderful collage of people now. Hi. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Let's see, what should I tell you? Okay, it's Chronogram Conversation. Today we're talking about arts education, and I hope everybody is staying safe and sane in this very long, strange, uncertain corridor of COVID infinity. We have a great panel here today, and I don't want to take up too much time on the kind of getting us started, because I think there are a lot of things we want to talk about. I also want to say that there were a number of people who contacted us about being on the panel after we had constructed the panel. And if we had had room for 35 people on the panel, we would have had a 35-person panel. I'm going to look into how we could structure that effectively. Maybe we have like a 6-hour Zoom next time. From a housekeeping perspective, we are on Zoom. Zoom has had some, data breaches, privacy leaks, Zoom bombers. So, I ask that you put your questions in the chat window. Don't put any, like your social security number, your bank account information, anything like that in there. But it's great for questions. And I encourage everyone to use that for questions, which then I can administrate for the group. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask that our panelists, we're going to go in alphabetical order. And so the panelists are going to each speak for 3 minutes about their organizations and what they're doing and how they've pivoted. Then we're going to have a short Q&A with myself, the moderator, and then we're going to open it up to questions from participants. And then the chat window, if there are resources that you think we should know about, I encourage you to put them in there. If you want to share something with the group, I encourage you to put it in there to share with us. So without further ado, I'm going to get right into it and ask our panelists to talk a little bit about themselves. Is Drew Andrews on this call? Drew, are you here?
I know he emailed saying he was going to be a few minutes late.
All right. So we'll come back around to Drew. Then we're going to go to you, Emily Dykeman, Technical Director of Hudson Valley Performing Arts Lab.
Hi, everybody. As Brian said, my name is Emily. I'm the Technical Director and also one of the staff writers at the Hudson Valley Performing Arts Lab, which is based in Poughkeepsie. Our physical space, which we have not seen in a while, is at the Trolley Barn in Poughkeepsie, if anybody's familiar with that space. In addition to being a technical director, a writer, I'm also a regular performer. As probably a lot of you know, being involved in a small company, everybody wears many hats. Before the days of COVID, we were offering in-person labs, free labs, which are basically like workshops in both writing and acting every week that were open to the public, as well as paid class programming, which were more like master classes. We would bring in people from every facet of the performing arts, from clowning to improv, to do more intensive classes on the weekends, and sometimes series of classes depending on how many people we got to sign up. And in addition to that, we were doing experimental, group-devised theatrical pieces. And the last thing we did, which was actually right before the lockdown, was at the Dorsey Museum at SUNY New Paltz in partnership with them. And we created an experimental group-devised performance piece in response to the art exhibit that was there at the time. So we've been able to pivot pretty easily. I don't think any of us expected having this much facility with a platform actually, with a remote platform actually, but we've been able to move our regular acting and writing labs remotely. We've been maintaining them pretty much every week. We've changed the acting labs to a little bit less physical and hands-on to more guest-oriented. We've been able to bring people in to do Q&As with us, to share their story. We had someone who acted on Broadway in there to share her experience with us, and that might have been something that maybe wasn't even accessible to us in person. And with our writing labs, we have changed up the format a little bit, but we've been able to essentially stay on track. And we're also now working on a group devised web series that is, we've been filming entirely over Zoom, although it's not supposed to be on Zoom. So that's presented a whole new set of challenges that we you know, never anticipated. We didn't think of ourselves as filmographers. That's the situation we find ourselves in. So we're trying to rise to that challenge.
I'm gonna take myself off mute. I'm still a newbie to this, sorry. Well done. Nicole-Fenichel-Hewitt, would you like to talk to us about what the artifact is doing?
I would love to, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel especially honored having heard how many people are excited to be on the panel. So the artifact is also based in Poughkeepsie, and we do arts education programming in painting and drawing and film and photography. We dabble in theater arts, but we do a multidisciplinary program for primarily children from 4 to 24, young adults. And we do it through a whole slew of ways. We have after-school programs, we have in-school programs, we have summer programs, we have workforce programs, tuition workshops. So this was, you know, a lot of change because every single program had a unique way of being handled when we could no longer run our programs in person. So one of the first things we did, well, also I want to make sure to tell you all our mission, which is really at the core of any time we make a shift. We're really at the heart of it, thinking about our mission, which is really to empower young people to develop their creative voices and to use their creative voices to better their own futures, but also to make an impact in their communities. So we have students who come to us for portfolio development for college, for career development, and for just arts experiences and arts for healing. And one of the first things we did was we kind of created a new social media engagement process, and we called it Art at Home, and we put out daily prompts. And this was something that I participated in and I loved. Daily small prompts that anybody, artist or non-artist alike, could participate in. You know, look for a piece of nature in your home and photograph it and upload it. And this was something we found that we were able to engage people without kind of feeling like they had any additional burden. But it was a wonderful tool for taking your mind off of all of these intense issues that we're all dealing with right now and really just exploring a little more inwardly. So we were doing things like that, but we had major programmatic shifts. So our workforce programs, which are in film and public art, shifted online. And for us, that meant shifting everything about the program. It's no longer a program that's teaching young people how to be part of a crew. Let's focus on script writing because we're remote and we can't give everyone all of the tools. We did give all of our students our very precious MacBooks, which was new for us. Usually students come to our space and use our computers, but we were having them stop by and pick up sanitized equipment and supplies so that they could function at home. Some of them had Wi-Fi issues. There were a lot of things to overcome for our youth here in Poughkeepsie, but we did a good job of retaining most of them through the virtual programs. And now as we're reopening, we're looking at kind of a multi-pronged model where we can have an in-person class that has limited enrollment, but then Zoom seats in the class so people can attend virtually. We had a big event, our Real Exposure Film Festival, which is an international film and photography festival. It happens every year at the Bardavon, and this year it happened on YouTube and Facebook and Zoom, and it was really exciting for us. I see, Brian, are you giving me a time look? I see your face. Okay, so yeah, lots of meat to dig into, but I will circle back if I'm asked any questions.
Thank you, Nicole. Next up, we have Rachel Jacob from Cornell Creative Arts Center. And Cornell Creative Arts Center is fairly new, so I think this will be informative for all of us here. Rachel, take it away.
Hi, thank you. So Rachel Jacob, I'm the art director for the Cornell Creative Arts Center. We are located in Midtown Kingston, conveniently sandwiched between the Lace Mill and the Shirt Factory. So if you just look for a big brick building, you'll find one of us. We are an emerging, inclusive, community-based art center. We planned on opening our doors in April, right as everything started to actually shut down. So we're really excited to be part of the conversation today. We are an art center that looks to provide a place to make, engage, and share in all of the arts. We aim to lower barriers to participation in the arts and to integrate the experience of art into the life of our local Ulster County community and now really greater and beyond. Our mission is to cultivate a synergy between businesses, artists, and people with disabilities and without, working creatively together and empowering one another to really achieve their goals and reach their true potential. We're really about looking kind of beyond what can people achieve, what can they create, what can they do together, and also by themselves. A lot of our programmatic design focuses on accessibility, diversity, inclusion, as well as using the arts and community connection to holistically be well, express self-identity, and to find a voice. The Physical Art Center facility houses a dance and movement studio classroom, a ceramic studio classroom, a art studio classroom, a gas kiln and firing services, a large open gallery space, and rental space for studios and offices. And we're actually very excited to say we are the Ulster location for Arts Mid-Hudson. I see Lilia on the call. Since COVID hit, we shifted all of our programs to virtual opportunities. We offer a variety of different live streaming classes, both visual arts, dance. What else do we do? So we're doing sculpture and ceramics moving into the month of July and August, yoga and meditation as well. We have a few exciting virtual exhibitions going on. We moved all of our in-person gallery shows online. If you go to our website, cornellcreativeartscenter.com, you can check out our full list of our schedule, our classes, and see those virtual galleries. We're really excited to continue this hybrid model of possibly in-person, but also virtual online live stream classes throughout the remainder of the year and beyond, because it really increases that accessibility that the Cornell Creative Arts Center stands for.
How big physically is the space, Rachel?
Yeah, we're actually a large 12,000 square foot space, and the rooms, everything is brand new construction. So we're pretty clean and COVID free here over the Art Center.
Well, thank you. That was great. All right, we have Sarah Mac Wright from Millbrook School, the art department there. Sarah, what's going on?
Hi, Brian. Thanks. I'm really excited to be here and with all the other panelists. And also I see Terry Moore, who's my, at Hotchkiss. We have a very similar job. So Millbrook School is a boarding co-ed high school in the Hudson Valley. In the spring quarter, we went online. And we are planning for a socially distanced return to in-person learning in the fall. I am definitely working on nitty-gritty planning. What is that going to look like? But the thing that is most important that I'm doing right now is thinking about mission and our philosophy. So I was really excited to hear Nicole and Rachel both sort of touch back to their mission as they create new plans moving forward. So I'm going to share just super briefly what I'm centered on as we sort of move forward with the arts at Millbrook. for me, I know that there's a reality that every national newspaper is going to have an opinion article that says that the arts are important because they raise math scores or because they improve SAT performance. And I don't care that much. It is not the reason why I am passionate and excited to do the things that I do. I think, and I think a lot of us agree that the arts teach lessons that are important for their own sake, that the arts teach lessons that are different than any other discipline. For me, I think a lot about how the arts teach contextual decision-making, rightness of fit, and also storytelling. At my school, sometimes I teach a class called Legal Issues in Contemporary Art, and my students like to debate originality and whether all the stories have been told so far. And I really think that students telling their unique stories is the most important work and facilitation that we can do. And here we are in the pandemic, and we're participating in Black Lives Matters protests, we're calling for racial justice. This is such an incredibly important time to make sure that everybody is able to tell those stories. And it's art making under duress. It demands our creativity. It's hard, but we as artists should trust ourselves. We are uniquely able to take this on, and it's really awesome to me. I'm looking, there's 62 participants, so I'm excited for this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Drew, I see you're with us. How are you?
I'm good, Brian. How are you?
I'm very well. So we're just asking everybody to tell everybody who they are and what their organization is and how you've pivoted in this moment.
Yeah, okay. Hello, thank you for doing this, though. I'm happy to be here amongst a bunch of creatives. It's always a blessing. So my name is Bryant Drew Andrews. Everybody calls me Drew. And I'm the executive director at the Center for Creative Education, which is also in Midtown. So you have Cornell that connects to Cedar. We're on Cedar side. So we'll be doing a lot of work, hopefully, with Cornell Creative as well. We have a brand new building that just went up, which is a collaboration between RUPCO. We have the 57-unit mixed income housing and CCE's new, it's about 12,000 square foot space, where we have a music studio, 3 dance and multi-purpose studios. We built virtual classes into it 4 years ago. So this is work that we'll do at CCE. We offer classes in theater, dance, a lot of dance, drumming. We have computer music, and several other. We have mentorship programs, a chess program. So we're not only an art studio, we are a community center. We're intergenerational. We do offer classes for children 6 months to 72 and older. So, you know, we feel it's really important that we come together as far as educating and having fun and building community together. The mission of CCE is to enrich the social and cultural awareness of our youth and community through arts, wellness, and education. This is work that we've been doing over 30 years. And it's really important that we continue this work. I felt during the pandemic, the first thing we did was create, they call it a Zen account, which is a way for people to just sign up. We also started a YouTube page where we offered free classes. We weren't thinking about money. We did reach out to our funders and ask them to support. They did what they can, but we stayed present. As Nina Simone would say, you know, artists, you know, reflect the time in which we live. And when the pandemic hit, the first thing we did was connect with everyone. We let them know that we're there, we love them, we see them, we're protecting them. And with the art, we kept, you know, everyone's spirits high. We did, at one point, we got out into the street, socially distanced, me and a few other artists, and we went to different communities to perform outside. for everyone. We had them come on their porches. They went in their front yard. We did the social distancing. We collaborated with the county. We collaborated with the city to hand out PPE to show the importance of especially the most marginalized cities and areas in the community. So we really use art for for a purpose. Art for art's sake in terms of expression, but we definitely use it to educate and to connect our community. It doesn't matter who they were. We were out there and we showed face and we stayed protected and safe and yeah, and it was really great. And now that things are starting to happen, I'll share more with throughout this time. Thanks, Brian.
That's awesome. Thank you, Drew. That was inspiring. You know, there have been some interesting in-person art experiences that I've heard about since the pandemic. You mentioned one, the Bindlestiff Family Circus up in Hudson had been doing parades through different parts of the city, socially distanced, but having all the performers out, the jugglers, the stilt walkers, the clowns. And, you know, people, you know, one of the things that I think is so interesting about the arts community is the agility of mind of folks. And, you know, Sarah, you know, you and I were talking, you know, and you had spoken to me about, and you had pitched an article for the magazine talking about how arts educators should really be involved in thinking about school curricula in general because of their agility of mind. Can you address that briefly?
Sure. I think that our educators are kind of experts at destroying, and that a lot of what we had to do this past spring and we have to do moving forward is kind of to not mourn what we have to leave behind, but just look to the future and say, what are we going to do next? Because I think as artists, we understand that destroying an art piece, sort of squashing your clay figurine and walking away from it, it's not gone. You're going to build on that. That foundation is with you for the next one. And that, I think that mindset can be applied to really any kind of teaching discipline.
Well said. Anyone else in the panel care to comment on that?
Would you mind repeating the question?
Oh, just thinking about, you know, you had mentioned, you know, everyone who has been speaking, the pivots that have been made have been so creative. And so, you know, the question really becomes one of, you know, should, you know, considering how many other areas of our government have struggled to be creative and flexible, perhaps we should have arts educators be more involved in decision making.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As far as that's concerned, you know, I think arts pretty much run the gamut of things that, you know, young people possibly need, like whatever they need at CCE, we provide. But the way that we do it is a lot of time communicating through the art. And because we are people that are pretty flexible, we know that sometimes one way don't work. I think the creative mind is always to find different avenues to get to the same outcome. And with us, and I'm sure with everyone here, the outcome is that people have voice and they're able to communicate that in the best way that they can. And I think, and to its end, I feel that that's what sometimes, who is it, Sarah? You said sometimes education, you know, in schools, they just kind of kill the creativity to some extent. That's true, but I feel that we are people that are hopeful and people that find different ways to get to the same, the same cause or the same
So
end.
Drew, you had mentioned that you had built in virtual classes 4 years ago.
Yeah, we built that the infrastructure into our new space. So we've been holding Zoom. I had Zoom 6 years ago. So we've been working that into the way that we teach, and especially with our adult classes, people can't show, can you connect at home? So we've been doing that for some time, and so we've been on that trajectory, but now it seems a lot more,
And so when you started doing this a number of years ago, you were just trying to fill the need of people who couldn't physically be in your space but wanted to connect with your instruction?
Correct. With young people, so we have a connection with people in California. We work with a group out in Germany. So they wanted to connect with us. So we were like, there's no reason why we shouldn't connect around the world. It's based on time at that point. We have the resources. We have all that we need. It's just about being creative and how we're going to utilize it and how to build more of a community that kind of, that stays connected. They teach us, we teach them, whether it's music, art, dance, but yeah, it's really important.
Right. I mean, CCE seems a little bit ahead of the curve, on this. We were talking prior to getting on the Zoom, and Nicole, you had mentioned the film festival. Can you tell us a little bit about how you guys pivoted with Real Expressions?
Sure, and I think you used the right word, agile. That's been the word I've been using a lot. Like, it's the ability to change, the speed in which we change, the creativity and nimbleness that that I've seen so many people have throughout such a strange time that we're all in here together. Our film festival is usually a 2-hour event at the Bardavon, and it's an international film festival. And this year we combined it with our national photography exhibit. So we were planning a big in-person event at the Bardavon with a photo exhibit and films from youth throughout the world, all under 10 minutes. We've been doing this event. This was going to be the 8th annual event. And when the Bardavon closed, and obviously we all were set into this virtual landscape, we took that night and we really rethought how to engage people and what are, as was said, like, what are the opportunities here? There's so many opportunities to do things differently and make a different type of impact. And for us, it was amazing to see. We took the 2 hours and we broke it into 3 nights, which is more of a festival format. So it was kind of fun to have 3 nights of showing. Each night was a third of the full showcase, so 5 films each night. And we built an opening with, we had a staff host and a youth host, and we used, so even a platform like Zoom, we can use creatively. We don't have to just have meetings and forums. We can use it to express ourselves in artistic ways. So one of the disciplines we teach is media arts. So we made an intro that kind of spoofed off some of the fun things that we can do online, like when you are doing a live Facebook and all the hearts start flying up, things like that. We pre-built into our festival. We had a big opening with music and sound. So you felt like, almost like when you used to go to the films and watch the lion roar and immediately get this charge of energy and excitement. So we were able to do that virtually, but one of the real benefits was it's an international and national film and photo festival. And now we had participants from around the world who never had access to seeing their films shared with the community. So now we had viewership from, I think it was a total of 17 countries. 750 people participated in watching the comments. We had moderators on each platform. And the best part of it was the Q&A was a live Zoom. So while we pre-produced a lot of the content to look live, we had an actual live Q&A with students from multiple countries. And it was on the, at the very beginning of the Black Lives Matter movement, the current one. And it was amazing to, as a community, talk about that with kids from around the world and see how their films related to it and how their countries were reacting, even though we felt really like this was an American issue. That was amazing to our young people and really to all of us to see that through this now truly international platform, we were able to connect around something that we're all experiencing that we felt like was an American issue.
Yeah, we were talking about this, the connectivity, the possibility of connectivity, even for regional organizations like our own, it really opens up a different set of possibilities. I mean, Drew was talking about, he was way ahead of everybody connecting with people overseas, but I think we've all been forced into this space, and now there's an opportunity, right? And that it's an amazing one. Mm-hmm. Rachel, you guys are just getting off the ground there. You haven't really had a chance to have in-person classes. How are your virtual classes going?
Yeah, so we just started live streaming classes at the beginning of the month of June. We're using a platform called Mindbody to live stream. It's typically one that people might be familiar with if they take yoga classes or fitness, wellness classes. They just created their live streaming platform as well. So we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it, working out the kinks as we go, and we thank all of our participants for bearing with us. But it's really interesting to see because it does really knock down some of those barriers to participation, whether it is someone is maybe a little shy to walk into a building, an art center that they've never been in before, or they physically cannot get to. So one of the things we're seeing is we have participants in counties beyond the local Ulster and Kingston community. We have people participating in Putnam. So that's pretty exciting. Maybe they don't normally have access to a similar type of facility, classes, or opportunities. Our live streaming classes, we're keeping them at about an hour's length. We find that to be kind of the sweet spot for educating. 2 hours you start to drift and people lose attention. An hour and a half sometimes can work. It really depends on what topic you are trying to teach. Some of our classes are even shorter. We do a 30-minute dance class and a 45-minute virtual chair-based yoga. Again, really trying to do things that are accessible, people can do from their own homes. A lot of the classes and curriculum we built in for the month of July and June, we're using art supplies that people may already have in their own home, so they don't necessarily need to go out into the community and put themselves in an unsafe situation. They can just use what they already have. So really just trying to work with what we have and meet the demands and the needs of the local community. And then also, again, we are live streaming beyond. We did a event earlier this month with the Bonodori Dance Festival, and one of our tenants, her name is Yoko, and we had someone live streaming locally, someone from New York City and someone from Japan teaching traditional Japanese folk dance and drumming. So it opens up so many avenues for reaching people that may normally not engage in the arts.
Right, the virtual environment, has a lot of advantages, but there's a good question about possible disadvantages here from Michael Arginski, who says, prompts and assignments are great, but how do you encourage the discipline to keep up a remote program of live stream classes? And this is something, Sarah, I'm sure you dealt with this in the school setting too. I've spoken with a lot of public school educators as that kind of shift from in the classroom to virtual happened. You're not in front of people, so how do you maintain their attention? So, how do you keep up a remote, discipline? I'm opening it up to the group if anybody wants to jump in here.
Sarah? No?
I can start, and then I'll toss it to you, Drew. Does that sound okay?
Go for it, yeah.
I think that there are students who are making art for themselves. And so the question of discipline for them, they're sort of like, what's discipline? I'm just doing this, it's for me. And then there are students who are making art because they want to be heard. And so the question for online teaching for us was, in what venue, what context do they want to be heard? Because if there are some students who are working through really intense experiences in their art, and it's not appropriate to share that art with the whole school and to say, look what they're doing, yay. So I think that the thing that has worked for us is to really think about the students as individuals and say, who needs to hear this? For whom are they making this art? Who can help them? Who's gonna bounce ideas with them? And to use that as a way of sort of creating discipline, I guess, as a conversation.
Yeah. No, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I've been dealing with one, most of the youth we work with are youth that just don't have the resources. So the first issue was that we couldn't connect. So we had to write a grant, which took some time, and we had to get them not only a computer, we had to get them Wi-Fi, like what do you call it, a hotspot. So that was huge. We had over 57 kids who was given something, I guess, some type of device from schools, but it didn't work. And then there was Spectrum that was giving free Wi-Fi, but that didn't work, or there were certain limitations. So we had to go out and purchase. So that was one thing. And then two, I think a lot of young people were zoomed out. They're just not feeling it.
A lot of adults too.
A lot of adults, all of us. I mean, they're stressed out. So we had to get really creative as far as keeping them and connecting with them online. Like we were dressing up, I mean, in costume to keep them connected. It was ridiculous, but we did it for the kids. You know, we did what we had to do to connect with them. A lot of them, we sat down, we had, you know, we always have conversation before class. And in that conversation, what I was hearing was any and everything they were hearing on the news and on social media about what was going on with George Floyd's death, Black Lives Matter. And they were all making pieces, very artistic pieces, beautiful, I mean, tear-jerking pieces about how they interpret what was happening in the world, which is exactly what I encourage and what we all encourage. Give it to me. So they wrote, and they all shared it. We're sitting here. It's not something they want to put out into the world, but it was something that they want to share with the group that that connects with them often online. And it was a spoken word piece. It was one dance piece that was mind-blowing. I'm begging this young lady to show this to the world. There was a theater piece, and then there was a music, drum, percussive, and acoustic guitar piece. Amazing. And that was the way that they got out what was stuck in them, which is exactly what we do, right? As artists, we need to build a platform that's safe and that's supportive for our young people. I'm young, I'm my youth first, but I say for everyone, but my focus is our youth first and foremost, especially those whose voices have been stifled. And these kids are now finding a way to state and we accept what they say the way they have to say it. That's what's been happening.
Nice, true.
Yeah.
Emily, at Hudson Valley Performing Arts Lab, you guys have been filming a soap opera. Was that a conscious choice in some way due to the pivot? Like we want to do something that, you know, is juicy and chewy and not Shakespeare, say, you know? I mean, what was that?
It was so not a conscious choice, but it is what it needed to be. The whole thing started out when we first moved our programming online. We started out by creating, I think Nicole mentioned something very similar to this. We created a game where we would have all of these prompts. Some of them were writing prompts, and some of them were like, make a sculpture using 5 things from your yard and send us a picture. And at least 100 people, if not more, participated. And it was just a fun thing for people to do. At the time, we didn't know how long this emergency was going to be going on, and we just wanted to give people something fun to do. And we gave them the disclaimer that we might use any of this material for a future show. So if it's private and personal to you and you want to use it for one of your own projects, don't share it with us. But people were extremely generous. They sent us funny things. They sent us poignant things. People really engaged with it. And we created a scoreboard because people got points for when they submitted. So there was an element of contest going on. And then we put the call out for people to participate in the next phase of the project when we realized we weren't going to be meeting again in person anytime soon. And that ended up being distilled down to a group of 6 writers, including myself, and 15 actors. I'm also an actor, so there's overlap. And we started having Zoom meetings, and at first we thought it was a sitcom, and we were writing as though it was that, and the people who were actors but who were not writers were participating and throwing in ideas about their characters, and we were improvising and we were riffing off each other's ideas, and then we would have a rehearsal, and then we would all go back and write based on what people did, and then we would come back and we would decide what worked and what didn't work. And I really feel like it was giving people a sanctuary to come to, even though it wasn't a very defined project in comparison to things we've done in the past. It was really giving people something to just come back to and say, I have ownership and I have investment in this no matter what else is going on. And then as we started to develop more and more of these scenes, we were like, this is totally a soap opera, and let's just be ridiculous with this. And I think we've really gone in the direction of kind of escapism with this particular project right now, which I think is filling a need for some people to just get away from everything. And I think there's a place for that, and I think it's helping people just to kind of go into a really ridiculous world.
Yeah. Emily, could you share a link to that in the chat so everyone can link to that? That would be great. So I have a question for the panel here. An arts educator.
Sure, I'm having some technical difficulties. Sorry about that. That's
okay. Did you hear? Just if you could just put a link to the soap opera in the chat, that would be great to share with everybody. Just following up on something Drew said about connectivity. Did anyone else with students have problems with people didn't have the hardware, didn't have connectivity? I'm interested to hear, stories of that.
Yes, I'm Patty Tyrol. I'm an art teacher in Kingston Miller Middle School. And there was a lot of problem with kids not having equipment, not having connectivity. And then I live in a somewhat remote area. I didn't realize my spectrum power was so down until I tried to start meeting with groups. The platform we're meeting on, Teams inside of Office 365, I thought it really stunk. And it was really hard for them. And then when I would gather them to meet and we would crash due to all of our connectivity, it was really frustrating.
Thank you.
And when I did a feedback thing with them at the very end, for their last assignment, I said, just tell me everything that worked, everything you liked, everything you missed, what you wish. And a lot of them said they would have liked like a whole sort of lesson on how to upload and download and all the technical stuff first, which, I just kind of jumped in assuming they knew how to highlight text and copy and paste it. A lot of them didn't know. Really basic stuff. They really miss materials. They really miss each other. So next time I'm going to break them all into small groups. We're going to meet more regularly, and I'm going to have figured I just spent a lot of my budget buying materials that I'm going to send home with them, and I'm going to demo live, and we'll do it all together. They miss being together.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Patty.
Sure.
And so, we spoke prior to the call as a group about in-person again. Phase 4 theoretically is coming. We'll see what happens. Obviously, the pandemic is moving in ways outside of New York State that will eventually influence our behavior here once again. But I'm curious to hear from the panel what your organizations are planning for Phase 4. Drew, are you going to have people back in your studio when Phase 4 is open?
We hope to. So right now, we're working in collaboration with different organizations within Kingston and the city of Kingston to provide what we call an enrichment program starting on the 6th in one of the city buildings. So we'll be housed out of the Midtown Andy Murphy Center, where we're holding an arts enrichment program from 9 to 3 p.m. And we talked to Dr. Carol Smith. We were on a call today about, how to do this right. All the materials, the PPE we'll need. Parents are not allowed inside. We're breaking everyone off 4-to-1, four youth, one counselor. So, we're starting that. We're hoping that by the end of August, we can follow through with something we've had every year for about 15 years, a summer arts intensive program. We're hoping to have that in our new space. But right now it's a matter of the number of people. We need to even out the budget. You know how that works. And so that works out. Yeah, we're hoping that that'll work out well.
Nice. Rachel, what are your plans for phase 4?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is other industries as well as the arts and culture organizations, and seeing how businesses and groups and things like that roll out as phase 4 continues and as New York reopens slowly. The conversation that I've been having with other businesses and similar culture organizations is that just because it's phase 4 and you're allowed to be open doesn't necessarily mean people are going to feel comfortable coming back inside. So really looking at taking the reopening slowly and moving into really leaving July as more of an exploratory and research phase, and moving into more of August and September with our live in-person facility-based classes. We're going to reduce our capacity. Classrooms will be much smaller size, offering one-to-one services. We don't have an outside facility space to utilize. And just moving into the later on in the year, if you think about it, all these things that people are doing outside right now is great. But what are we going to do in the fall and the winter when we can't be outside and the weather just doesn't permit it? So really just looking at what we can do to reduce the amount of people within the building, but still offer those connections and that opportunity to interact with people. And we're going to continue the online lessons as well and just kind of offer a hybrid model. The first thing that we will be reopening is our gallery. We are going to be releasing a call for art in the next week or so. We've only been doing these online virtual galleries, which is a great substitution, but there is no replacement for coming in, looking at, engaging with, and seeing the artwork in person. So that's our next thing that we're hoping to have a September art gallery open, and hopefully that will align with other things going on in Kingston in September for the arts community.
Very nice. Nicole, does the Artifact have plans for phase 4?
We sure do. We kind of looked at it as we saw the reopening and the timeline. We're like, okay, right after 4th of July, if all goes well, phase 4, we can serve some students live. So we're using the trolley barn, which I know Emily's upstairs, so you'll hear us downstairs if you go back to work in the space. But it's a huge space, and we're just having 10 students there. So we're really practicing social distancing. We have, of our 4 summer camps, we're only opening our Poughkeepsie camp in person, but we're really excited to use the yard here. Usually we rent a facility for these things. We're able to, because they're so much smaller, do them here. I mean, like Drew was saying, budgets are playing into all of this because we decided right as soon as we saw the reopening started, we had the runway to actually fill a lot of our high school programs, and some of them even have a wait list, and it's because they're yearning engagement. And I think, looking at what everyone was commenting and talking about engagement virtually, it is such a big part of how we have to teach now, is is letting them lead the process a little more. So we were really optimistic in our goals. I mean, we have a long list of procedures, including temperature taking and survey filling out as students roll up. Like Drew was saying, parents aren't coming in. So it's a different world, but we are super excited to start offering some in-person programming. And we're offering Zoom seats and virtual options for people who aren't comfortable or don't feel it's safe for their families too.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. That's funny, you know, the temperature checks, I'd forgotten about those things too. Yeah, that's a thing that we'll all be doing more of. At Millbrook School, Sarah, what's your plan for arts education in the fall?
Our hope is to be in person but socially distanced. I think there's a reality that we probably won't get guidelines from the state on how to do that safely. And so we kind of have to look at guidelines for colleges and guidelines for athletics and put the two together and kind of divine what would be right for our art classes. So that's coming together quite slowly. I guess if you allow me, Brian, one thing I wanted to offer, I'm seeing a lot of commentary in the chat about connectivity and frustrations there. Sure. Watch Apollo 13 or rewatch Apollo 13 if you haven't. This is, for me, so my first day of online teaching, we lost power from a storm. I drove out to find power. There was a tree across the road. There was someone in a golf cart trying to pull the tree from the road, and it was horrible. And Apollo 13, of course, is about this space mission where everything goes wrong, and there's a moment in it that was especially poignant for me. You can figure out what resonates for you, but I guess just as a gesture of kindness for yourself, I'd really recommend to fellow educators to watch that movie and to empathize a little bit with it.
And just the spirit of creativity and like working out a solution in a period of flux and chaos. Yeah. Rachel, you posted a question to the feed here. Has anyone come up with plans to address sanitizing commonly used shared art supplies? That's a great question.
We're addressing it by it's more expensive, but we're making art kits. So every camper in our program, every high schooler in our art institute, as part of their enrollment, they get the kit, and so their job is to, you know, protect and wash and take care of their own supplies. If that's not possible, we've got gloves and, you know, a lot of counselors on hand, especially, we're also not running it for the youngest kids because we know it's really, really hard for that age group to follow these guidelines. That's how we're handling it.
Yeah, and so, so you're just saying we're not going to run those types of programs because we can't make sure that they follow the guidelines.
Yeah, not for our 4 to 5 year olds. Yeah. But we are offering them the downloadable videos with a supply kit that comes with it. So we're mailing packages actually tomorrow to a number of, we had about, I think 25 or so people purchased those. So we're really excited. We made 45 educational videos, and, you know, it goes against everything we're talking about with the connectivity, but for some people doing it on their own time at their own pace over the course of a summer, you get 10 lessons and a supply kit. And that's how some people are going to be able to continue their art practice this summer.
Mm-hmm. I'm conscious of time here, so I'm going to start to wrap up, but I'm going to ask the panelists, you know, what's the silver lining here in all of this for you? What has been something that you felt was a real ray of sunshine here? Rachel, oh, Drew, go ahead.
Okay, so I feel that I look at, like, I think of the phoenix, like, right? What's rising out of this, like, you know, this craziness? What's rising out of it is, one, the expansion of people that we can connect to, making sure that we don't, you know, just go with the individual kind of in person, but that this become part of what's normal. you know, the connecting on social media, making sure that we have some type of connection, however we do it, that we're constantly connecting with people on social media, that we're connecting with people in person, and that we integrate this into our everyday life. And then on top of that is that we then have we've been working more at Spanish speaking as well. That to me is huge in terms of making sure that we widen the connection and access to affordable, accessible, equitable arts, that we keep the two and that we can speak to the world. That's
well said. Rachel.
Yeah, I will echo those sentiments that whether it's the pandemic or current events, what we're seeing right now is people have enough pause in their life to look at and reflect and respond and see the bigger issues that are affecting our communities at large. That, you know, art is a really great equalizer, but also at the same time can also highlight the differences in a community, whether or not people have access to the arts, art making materials, technology, and connectivity. So I think what we're seeing the silver lining is that we now have the opportunity to highlight those issues that are barriers to equity and equal access and act on them. So what we're at least seeing in the Ulster County is a lot of the art organizations, us included, Drew, CCE, Arts Mid-Hudson, everyone's coming together in these collaborative forums and seeing what can we do for our community moving forward, because this is not a short-term problem and we need long-term solutions.
Well said. It is not a short-term problem. Emily, silver linings? Did we lose you?
Just to echo what everybody else said, I don't know if I'm audible. People have been able to connect with us who normally were prohibited by time and space. They lived too far away. They couldn't be away from their kids that long, adding in the commute to and from our physical space. So I think that we've attracted new people and people of different age groups and different backgrounds, and our group has actually grown significantly more diverse in several different ways. And I don't think we would have made those connections if we had stayed in our little bubble. So it's really helped us become less insular, and I'm grateful for that.
Very nice, thank you. Sarah, as the in-school educator of the bunch, what was your silver lining?
I am a little intimidated now to follow Drew and Rachel and Emily. They said that so beautifully. I guess like a little tiny kernel of what they're saying is the accessibility thing was really powerful for me. I had a student who really understood her learning needs, who used to video, she used to film me teaching her things so that she could play it for herself later on. And I sort of said to her, what a great gift you've given to me, because you sort of prepared me for what was going to happen, and I didn't know that you were preparing me for it. You didn't know it. So I think that little sort of learning style accessibility thing has been huge, and I hope to find a way to continue to provide that and explore it moving forward.
That's great. And Patty Tyrol just commented in the chat that a silver lining is more one-on-one conversations with the shy and quiet kids. What a great thing. Yes, Patty. Yeah, held to the yes there. Nicole, what about you? Silver linings.
Yeah, I always look at silver linings because I think that to be a nonprofit leader, you have to be an optimist. And I think there are so many. I'm constantly reminded, but I really resonate with the idea that there's a commonality to this time. We're all in it together. We're experiencing some incredible highs and lows together. And I feel like that's really unique for, at least in my lifetime, for our society. And having art projects that are reflecting students' emotions, it's just been one of the most powerful times that I've seen student art affect me. And I think that's a really important piece of all of this, that these challenges bring out our human emotions, and we all have the same set of human emotions. And so there's a connectivity beyond this virtual thing that's within each of us that I feel has came out of this pandemic and the Black Lives Matter movement, that is really beautiful. And I'm hoping that piece of our empathy and compassion and listening stays with us.
Wow, well said. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm pretty inspired after all of this. I think, and I'm looking at so many of you here who are on the call. I know many of you, and I know that there's a wealth of knowledge and information here that we did not get to access on the call. So thank you all for being here. Thank you to our sponsor, the Cornell Creative Arts Center. I will just do a quick plug. Chronogram's July issue hits streets tomorrow. It's our special Chronogrammies issue, the great reveal of all the people who won. There may or may not be one or two winners on this particular call that I'm seeing. Very exciting. And we will be posting this video, and we will also be posting a synopsis of the discussion later this week on chronogram.com. We will send a follow-up email in case you're interested in the video and the synopsis. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your life to be with us. And I'm really so glad that our panelists were here to share their experiences. And I'm sorry we weren't able to focus on more voices, but we will continue to do this, and we'll get more voices in next time. So on behalf of Chronogram and all my colleagues here, thank you. Have a lovely evening.